You mind, somebody mind shutting, can you shut that door? Yeah, thanks. Well, thanks again for coming down. We appreciate it. And we have said all along that we were going to be as open and transparent in this process as we possibly could. And anytime anything significant developed, we would do our best to communicate it to you. And I think today we have several significant things to report. Let's just go back to kind of rehash. Of course, a week ago, almost exactly to this hour, we had the raid, if you will. And then still a lot of uncertainty about what had happened and what was going on. We obviously knew it was a very serious situation. Then Thursday afternoon late, the affidavit was unsealed. And I will tell you this, I've worked here, it'll be 36 years in August. The company's 54 years old. And that was the most painful, and still is, 48 hours that I've ever experienced in business. And it was painful because that's not how we do things around here. We have respect for people. We have the utmost respect for our customers, and we don't talk in that kind of language. Now, we're in a blue-collar business, the truck stop business, but we don't talk and we don't act that way. And listen, we make mistakes like any company does, but there is absolutely no excuse for that kind of behavior. I don't think I've ever been as embarrassed as I have been since I read the affidavit. And I'll be candid, even when I met with you all Friday, I hadn't really sat down and studied it. When I got home Friday night about 8, I sat down and literally, like I was a student in school again, I had my legal pad out and went through it word by word, made notes on it to myself, and I don't think I slept at all Friday night. I might have slept an hour or two. Somebody had sent me a copy of the USA Today article, which, to say the least, was not very flattering. And so the first thing I did Saturday morning, once everybody else was up, was call our salesman, Kevin Clark, who lives in Oklahoma City, and ask him for Kurt Morehouse's number. He was one of the guys quoted in USA Story. And I called Kurt, and I happened to get he and his brother in the office on the phone that morning, and I started by apologizing. So I'd like to come see you and apologize face to face. And we had what I would describe, it was not cordial, I don't want to say that, but a very professional conversation in which he said, I just want you to pay me my damn money if you owe me any. And I said, Mr. Morehouse, that's more than fair. And I'm going to come back in a minute to what we're doing, but rest assured he'll be the first guy's account we look at as we start this process today and tomorrow. Tommy Hodges of Titan Transfer was also quoted, and listen, I'm embarrassed for every customer, but Tommy is, if you'll pardon the play on words, a titan of the industry. He was president of the ATA year before last. He's a fellow Tennessean. He's somebody that we know and respect, and to read what he said in the paper, and I'm not at all saying we didn't deserve it, was particularly painful. I couldn't reach Tommy Saturday and Sunday. He told me he was out on his tractor Saturday and Sunday, and today he's down at a conference in Athens, Georgia. And I did reach him today, and I'm going to go see him in person on Wednesday. I just tell you those two stories to tell you how seriously I personally and we are taking this, okay? Now, I want to tell you 5 things that we're going to do, and they've already begun. Some of them have already happened. Some of them are in process. Some of them will happen. 4 of them, and I think this is important to understand, we would have done if we'd discovered this ourselves or a customer had brought it to our attention. The 5th one we're doing because of the legal ramifications of what we're going through. The first thing is we have a substantial internal audit team. As you might imagine, with the kind of sales we have and the amount of cash that we handle spread over, if you count Canada, over 550 locations and operating 365 days a year and serving food, and we just have a tremendous amount of exposure out there. And so we have a big internal audit field team. We have called the majority of that field team into Knoxville, and I personally met with the head of that field team and his 2 key lieutenants this morning. The rest of them will be arriving today, and worst case, first thing in the morning. And we're going to look at our entire direct bill process, not just the part that there are supposed irregularities with, the quote manual process, but we're going to look at the entire process for 2 things, okay? One, are there any places, and I'm not suggesting there are or aren't, where we could have unfairly overcharged a customer? That's their first mission. Their second mission is to look and see in that entire process, and there's numerous different kinds of transactions in trucking business, are there opportunities for other what I will call loopholes where some type of irregularity could occur? Now, I'll be honest with you, and this is important, I'd like to have this done tomorrow, okay? Because there's nobody that wants to know, one, is there an issue or not, and two, what's the dollars involved than I am, okay? At the same time, the important thing is what? The important thing is to get it right. And so I'm going to tell you it's going to take a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 8 weeks. But I'm also going to tell you I could come to you in a week or so and say it's going to take another 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. Because the last thing I want to do is come to you and say the problem is X big and it be X and a half big. If in fact there is a problem, I want to keep saying that, okay? I don't know that there's a problem, but I want to make sure we get the numbers right. And what I told our head internal auditor today is exactly what I'm telling you all. Listen, we want them ASAP, but the important thing is to get the numbers right. All right, that's step number 1. Step number 2, yesterday we put on administrative leave several members of our direct sales team. This is not an easy thing to do because, oh, well, let me say this. I'm not presuming those people are guilty or not guilty. What I do think is they're guilty of violating how Pilot Flying J team members are supposed to act. And for that very reason, they're on administrative leave indefinitely until we continue our investigation. I personally had conversations with those people yesterday on Sunday. The third thing we're doing is I've instructed our people who worked in systems, technology, process, and sales to come up with a way that we do away with manual transactions. My exact words to them this morning, we met at 8 o'clock, I asked them how long it would take, and they said June 1st. And I said, well, let's say June 30th, because you're asking customers to do different business a different way than they have before, and I want to make sure we give the customer time to change. My exact words I said today is, I don't want to hear the term manual transaction again in Pilot Flying J after June 30th. So that will start right away. I think we can have it done by May 31st, but I want to be conservative and say June 30th. The fourth thing we have done is, and I think this is a really good idea, I'll take the blame, we did not do it before, is we're going to have a chief compliance officer who will report to me, our outside general counsel, as well as other people we know who work for large companies will help us develop what exactly the scope of that job is and what its mission is. I have that in mind in a broad area, but we're going to help define that, and we began working on that this morning. We have not selected the person yet. I want to make sure we get the right person. That person, whomever it is, already has a big job at Pilot Flying J, and that'll be in place in the next 30 days, if not sooner. That person will need training, and we'll get that training whether it's at an academic institution and/or companies who we consider outstanding at compliance. So those 4 things, our own internal study, number 1, putting several team members on administrative leave, number 2. Number 3, doing away with the manual process. And number 4, creating a chief compliance officer. We would have done all 4 of those if there was no outside investigation. That's just good business practices. That's how we do things here at Pilot Flying J. The 5th thing, we had a board meeting yesterday, and our board members and I agreed that we would bring in a special outside investigator. I don't know if that's the proper term or not, but you all follow what I'm saying. To run an independent investigation, if you will, of everything that did or did not transpire here. They will report to the board of directors, not to me, and I think that's an outstanding idea. This will be somebody of national reputation who has experience in the Justice Department and is well known in legal service circles and whose credibility is beyond reproach. We know who this person is. They did not want us to say anything for a few days because of a couple other projects they're involved in. I would hope to announce that to you by the end of the week, and that we would start, or that person would start next week. And I think it will signal to everyone how serious we are about finding out, again, what did or did not happen. Okay? So those are the 5 things. Like I said, 4 we would have done on our own. The 5th, because of the serious legal ramifications, the board and myself agreed was the right thing to do. I think I, more than anybody, understand the damage that's been done to our reputation, our brand, and our relationship in the trucking community. 8 days ago, I think we had the best relationships, the best trust in the trucking industry, and we now have the worst. I understand that. I accept responsibility for it, and we're going to work. We went to work Saturday, I guess you could say, starting to rebuild those relationships. And I understand we have a long way to go. We're approaching it very humbly, hat in hand, and we'll do what we can over a period of time to regain the trust of the trucking companies that, candidly, this company has enjoyed since 1981. We opened our first truck stop in Corbin, Kentucky. There's nothing more that I would rather do than answer questions for you right now, but I think you all understood, as I said Friday, this is a very fluid process, and there's a heck of a lot I don't know. I've told you everything that we're doing and about everything I know, and I will pledge to you that we'll do the same thing. I think we sat down Tuesday, Friday, and now Monday, so that's 3 times in 6 days. Anytime anything significant happens, we'll ask you to come down here and have this same kind of exchange, okay? Once again, I appreciate y'all coming down on fairly short notice. Have a good day.
Can you see how many are on leave, Jimmy? How many people?